So children, again, I'm here with a few questions for you for the purpose of your board exams. And today's topic I'm going to discuss is the waste management. And a few questions I have brought related to this topic. Okay, let's start with it. First of all, very short type questions from this topic. You can see here what is known as waste. The answer is waste is a thing which is not required by the producer, processor, or owner. That means it is generally anything which is discarded or thrown away by us, right? That is called a waste. And second question is how many types of waste are there generally? So wastes are of three types, right? Number one is solid, liquid, and gaseous waste. Clear? Then next is what are the sources of waste? What are the sources of waste? Basically, waste is generated from a number of sources. And the major sources of waste are domestic waste, industrial waste, agricultural waste, commercial waste, biomedical waste, okay, and municipal waste, etc. Then, what are the sources of agricultural waste? What you will say in this? The agricultural wastes can be of the various types. You can say the fertilizers, pesticide, insecticides, and their sacks and all. That can be one type of agricultural waste. Or in this, one more thing you can include, children, that is the the remains which are left once we take away the food grains from the field, right? So the husk and all the remains which are left in the field, that is also taken as the agricultural waste. Okay. Then next is what is meant by domestic waste. Wastes which are actually generated due to domestic activities are called the domestic wastes, right? In this, you'll find most of the domestic waste is actually the biodegradable waste, or you can say the kitchen waste which we get, right? Then next is define gaseous waste. Gaseous waste is it includes generally the fuel exhausts containing carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxides, carbon monoxide, okay, and even the smog which is formed as you can say the smoke along with fog, okay, that has been termed as smog, smog, and this is again a something which causes a lot of harm to the people there, okay, or all the living beings in when they inhale all that. Next is what does industrial waste include? Industrial waste include any material that is rendered useless during a manufacturing process. Okay, it can be metals, it can be chemicals, it can be various gases, right, which are released from any industrial unit. Next is what is biomedical waste. Biomedical waste, basically, it is generated from the hospitals or the nursing homes, right? Pathology, laboratory, and all that. And especially these include the blades, needles, then you can say the cotton, right? Bandage, plaster pieces, and all these are coming under the biomedical waste. Then what form of waste is generated from the oil refineries? Petroleum is found in raw form while refining. That means it actually releases a large amount of gaseous and liquid waste. Okay. Next is what is hazardous waste? Hazardous means which is very harmful. And how is it generated? Hazardous waste basically is the waste material often in chemical form, right? That comes from agriculture, radioactive elements, and all what we get from the various sources. And the industries can pose a long term risk to health and environment. So, all such wastes which are coming in that way are called as hazardous waste. Okay. And what is segregation? Segregation, children, this is a very, very important term for you for the exams purpose, right? Segregation means this is the first step of, you can say, the management of waste, right? Now, what is it? It is the initial stage of waste disposal. And what is actually involved in it? The waste can be segregated or it can be separated, okay, according to their nature, right? It can be separated into like dry waste and wet waste, okay, biodegradable and non-biodegradable, then recyclable waste, and different categories we can then separate the waste. And this separation of waste according to its nature is called segregation. Okay. Next question is, what is open dumping of waste? Now, what is open dumping? First of all, open dumping is a term which is related to like disposal of waste. And in that, this is considered as the most, you can say, the cheapest method of disposing of the waste. But one thing should be very clear to you, children, that open dumping is simply we are taking away the waste. We are just collecting all the waste from one place and we are just dumping it at some other place, right? So we are not actually finding out any solution to get rid of the waste, right? We are just changing the place of the where the waste has to be dumped. So this is not a solution actually. And yes, these days in many of the cities you will find this practice is being done. And this is because it is simply just taking the waste from one place and dumping on the other place. This is what we have to do. So that is why open dumping is considered as the cheapest method of disposal of the waste, right? But it is actually dumped, in open lowlands, generally far away from the settlement areas, the cities or the any settlement areas. So it is a common and the cheapest method of dumping of the waste, but disposal of the waste. But it is, it causes a lot of um, negative impacts can be seen as a result of it on the environment and the surrounding entire, you can say, the air gets polluted because of the foul smell. Then several diseases can be found as a result of the various carriers, right? The fly and mosquito and various insects grow up there, right? And rats and all. So it works as a breeding ground for all these vectors, right, which carry the diseases. Then whenever the rainfall is there, the water can seep down along with all this waste, and it can cause harm to the underground water source, right? Then moreover, you can say it spoils the landscape. So ultimately, many such negative impacts are there. And the most important thing, the stray dogs and stray cows and all, when they actually search for the food here and there, and they reach to such areas, they start eating some eatables are there, thrown out in the open dumping area, right? So along with that, the food material, you'll find that they also eat along with that some unwanted things like plastics and all, and that causes harm to these animals. Okay, so this is again one big drawback of open dumping. Now, next is, how is solid waste disposed of in an incinerator? Now, incineration is another step in the waste disposal. Okay, now what is incinerator? This is actually, you'll find the solid waste disposal is, it is reduced to a great extent, okay, in the total weight as well as volume also in the incinerators, because incinerators are the big chambers where at a very high temperature the wastes are burnt, okay, and within a few seconds the waste changes into ash, right? So in total it is reduced by 90% of its weight and volume. Okay, so one way to dispose of the waste, especially, what type of wastes are sent to the incinerators? The wastes which are actually, we cannot take the risk of keeping those wastes in open anymore. Okay, and such wastes are basically the biomedical waste, which may cause several diseases. right? And along with that, you'll find the e-waste and the radioactive waste and all that. So these are actually disposed of immediately, right? Now, what do you understand by the landfill? Now, landfill is similar to the open dumping. Sanitary landfill is a way of disposing refuse on land without creating nuisance or hazard to public health or their safety. Okay, so the waste is packed and dumped at the site and is covered with earth. Generally, a layer of soil is covered over that. And daily it is done. And basically, it is done to prevent the diseases, right? And the insects basically which grow up over there, right? In the case of open dumping, just now we have discussed that several insects can grow up there. Okay, that can work as a breeding ground. But here in this case, because it is covered by a layer of soil, so no such insects can grow up there. Or if they are seen in very less number, you'll find that. Okay, so that is one thing. Second thing is that the total the foul smell is now reduced to a great extent because it is now covered with soil. Okay, then next thing is it is foul smell is not there, so the release of methane gas is very less. Okay, so the pollution is caused to a very less extent, right? So many such things are there which are a little better than the open dumping. Okay, and generally it is covered with the soil, and after some time it is actually the area is used for the plantation. And these plants which are grown there, these are generally the industrial plants, or you can say the non-edible plants, right? Which is not going to harm any of the animals because they are not going to eat it, right? Next is what is composting. Composting basically again one of the methods of disposal of the waste. Composting is a natural degradation process in which biodegradable materials are decomposed, and these are decomposed by microbes, and these are converted into manure. Okay, so natural manure is produced as a result of composting, which is also called as the manure is also called as compost. Okay, so once the compost is formed, this can be used by the farmers or the people also in their kitchen gardens. They can use it. So basically, we are not at all then, we don't have to worry for any fertilizers to get it from the market. And moreover, once we use the compost in our kitchen garden or in our fields, suppose the farmers are using in their fields, so they are one thing, they are not going to purchase the fertilizers from the market. Second thing, fertilizers, many strong chemicals are used in that. Okay, and these chemicals cause ultimately the bio magnification. That is again one very important negative side of it. Okay, so all these things are not there. These have been reduced to a great extent when we use the this manure, or you can say the compost is used in the field. Okay, moreover, it protects the soil. Protects the soil means its natural fertility is maintained, right? This way it helps in reducing the soil erosion. So many such things are there again, and in this way we can use the biodegradable waste to produce something good for the people and for the plants as well. Okay, and moreover, it is one of the ways to keep our environment clean, because we are reducing the total amount of waste which is dumped out in open, right? Next is, what do you mean by a scrubber? Again, one you can say machine which is used to reduce the total waste. Now you can see how does it work. Scrubbers are often used in waste disposal system, and these scrubbers along with condensers, right, and traps are used to contain and collect waste solvents. Okay, toxic vapors or dust, all these are actually separated, right? Then next question is, what is recycling? Recycling is the process of collecting, separating, processing, and selling recyclable materials so that they can be turned into new products. So recycling is taking something old and worn out and turning it into something new, right? So this is how the recycling helps in actually managing the waste. Next is, what do you mean by reuse? Again, one term out of all the three R's, right? Recycle, reuse. Then reuse, what does that mean? Reuse of materials in their original form is practiced instead of throwing them away, right? Or passing those materials on to others who could use them too. Or we can say that the reuse of materials means when we have had our cold drinks and all, so generally what we do is we just throw away the bottles, right? So these bottles can be washed again and they can be used to for different purposes, right? As a pot also we can use to plant to grow any plant in that. Okay, so that can be used. Then otherwise we can use it for keeping water. So there are different ways how we can use it. Then what is source reduction? Again, one important term you should know here, right? Source reduction is actually reducing the waste at its origin only, right? Or you can say before purchasing or by purchasing products which are not wasteful in their packaging or use, we are actually reducing that waste there only, right? It can also be in a household when the used plastic bottles are not thrown out as a waste and can be used again for plantation, right? So again, we are talking of the same thing. That means we are reducing the total waste which would have been generated otherwise. So we have minimized the waste at its place of origin only, right? Then next is state the main objective of the treatment of gaseous waste. The objectives of the treatment of gaseous waste is to drain the harmful particles and allow clean air to escape through chimneys. Okay, so these are the questions which actually are related to the waste management. Now, children, I want to actually discuss a few more questions with you all, and for that, I want you to be actually keep in touch, and you can just check the next video